Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. First off, thank you everyone for joining. It's a very important time, and we want to thank the Senator, of course. It's a very busy time in Albany, so thank you, Senator Ryan, for being here with us today. There's a lot happening in the past few weeks, the past few days even, and we really wanted to make sure that we get the right information to you and that you hear about all of the things that are happening in Albany at this time, because they do affect our communities and our schools. We are pleased that the state budget has been passed, and we saw some record increases in our program. So we're going to break it down with you about what that means. We can do a happy dance on screen, off screen. It's very, very exciting. We saw an 18% increase in all of our funding streams. So that is a huge increase across the board. And we really thank our partners in the communities who have helped us get there, as well as our partners in the interfaith coalitions, UJA Federation of Buddhist Israel, as well as our partners with the governor, the Senate, and the Assembly. So I'm going to turn it over to Maury Litwack to set the stage and introduce Senator Ryan.
Thank you, Sydney. First and foremost, our thoughts and prayers go out for the horrible shooting that happened in Brooklyn. So, I know a lot of people asked us about that also, and so we're monitoring that closely. I just want to first off thank Senator Sean Ryan for being with us today. We appreciate his leadership in the Senate. We appreciate his time from being an Assembly member to a senator. I know we got a lot of texts and calls from people already excited to see him on the call as an old friend of the community. So we appreciate him being here with us today. I'll just share that some top line items and just why the most important thing is why it's important for your community and why it's important for your schools, which is that we're very, very pleased about the fact that the STEM funding that we fought so hard for, and people like then Assembly member Sean Ryan and now Senator Sean Ryan joined us in fighting for, getting STEM funding increased from 40 million last year to $58 million this year, which is a 45% increase. And when you hear from the senator, you hear about how rare it is to get increases of that size and percentage within the budget. Secondly, we're very, very pleased about the fact that the security funding, security and health line, which is typically $15 million, was increased to $45 million. This line also, in addition to, it comes out to about $31 a kid, so now it's going to be closer to $93 a kid. And in addition to it being eligible for health and safety funding, it's also eligible for capital expenditures as well, which is for aging infrastructure, which, as many people know who've been with us for some time, regulations require, once something passes, you actually have to have the regulations that dictate how it's spent. And that's something that we're going to be informing you with as we move about that. But similar to last year, when you take note of something like that, it's worth you taking a note of that in your budget plans and your preparations as schools and communities to note that, because that is a big deal and is a big change. Finally, other items have been renewed, like the academic intervention services, the $25 million Securing Communities Against Hate Crime grant. Some of those other things that we expected have been renewed. The cap and mandated services was increased, close to $2 million increase for that as well. Overall, we saw funding increases, Sydney mentioned, by 18%. Current non-public school funding is a little bit over $325 million this coming year. This is really the result of not just this year, but the last 5 to 7 years that we've been fighting for these increases in Albany. But the top line items, the things that you care about, what you should care about is that if you just got STEM funding in the last week and a half when we talked about it, you got that STEM funding off of a $30 million appropriation, which is about 2 years old. If you're now saying, well, what does a $58 million appropriation mean? 58 million, the total STEM applications this past year were $74 million. So 58 million means that the state is appropriating close to about 80% of the eligible funding. So it means more money for your school. If you got STEM funding this year, this means you'll be getting more STEM funding, which is absolutely critical for hiring teachers. In addition to that, it also means that, a note just on that means that we're talking now about potentially that money coming out 18 months from now or somewhere in that time frame. So that's when you actually can expect that money to come out. There's a whole application period, et cetera, for those who are new to it. In terms of the security and capital funding, that money comes as part of your allocation and again, we'll be helping you determine how you can spend that money. So that's going to be very informed by the regulations as well. Securing communities against hate crime grant. We all know that that program has problems in being delayed and not getting out in time. That's something that we're going to be working very hard, very closely with the legislature on to improve as well. So we should be hearing more about that. But those are the top line items and your takeaways from the school. Sydney, I turn it back to you.
Now I'd like to turn it over to Senator Ryan to give us a insider view of what budget negotiations look like himself, as well as other people in the Senate and the Assembly fighting for our communities, our schools, and to give us some of the juicy details. So take it away.
Well, it's great to see everybody today, and thank you, Maury, for your kind words. This is turning into a long relationship. In my mind, I feel like I just got elected, but this is my 11th budget, and during that time, my relationship with what was then the OU, has broadened and deepened. So very happy working with you and Sydney. But let me tell you, this was the triple crown. Like, each of the three major funding sources that your organization usually pushes, and a good year you might get one or two, you got all three this year. But particularly in the STEM field, you got a whopping increase. So you really, to use all the analogies, you hit it out of the ballpark this year. And it was really fantastic, especially the STEM. I mean, we consider big winners is if you get a 3 to 5% increase, and we increased this 45%. So really, really big year. And then the sort of bread and butter of the attendance policy, mandated services, nominal increases in those over time really are also very, very helpful. And then the capital funding. So you really did a great job. And I think you were able to achieve these results because you have a broad-based group of legislators who, through your education, have come to understand your issues. And I count myself as one of those groups who benefited from the educational advocacy that you folks were coming at me with, and helped me really understand the different communities all around our state. So I'm happy to have helped supported these items. A lot of different people from different parts of the states and different interests all came together to make this happen. But it's really, this doesn't happen but for the act of advocacy. It's been a little tough the last 2 years with the pandemic, but I'm very confident that next year I will be seeing busloads of kids, coming up to Albany, having them watch the proceedings and really interact with elected. So, I really compliment the work that your group has done, because these gains are very much out of the ordinary. So, congratulations on helping us get to a very good budget.
Senator, you're one of the people who speaks up in conference when I always tell community members that members have a little index card or somewhere every day they keep when they're in session about priorities and issues. And you're one of the people that speaks up, and you represent Buffalo. So you don't represent the downstate, you represent the upstate, which is a whole nother thing, because when you talk about a relationship, I always measure my relationship with Senator Ryan on whether or not the Bills and the Browns and that area that is doing poorly or not. So as long as that's why we feel time moves by so slowly for us. So if our teams start winning, Senator, it'll be a whole different thing.
That's right.
What I was going to ask you is how important is it for people to educate and thank their legislators post-budget in terms of what this means to them? You're aware of it. You've been doing it for a while, and you've been downstate also to visit the schools as well. But do you feel like your colleagues universally know these programs, understand these programs, are familiar with these programs?
I don't feel like there's a universal understanding. So I think that's why it's important to keep in these conversations. And now that we've got some pretty big gains, to refocus your effort on doing more reach out to members of the Assembly and the Senate, just to let them know exactly how these budget items, that are small based on our massive budget, but what large effects that they have on your schools, in your communities. I think it's really important to loop back. And here's another good human reason why. We get a lot of pressure, and usually when things go wrong, you hear a lot of people telling you what you did wrong. But you'd be amazed to hear how many people who things went right for them, that they don't loop back. And they don't loop back and just show the appreciation, which then grows the relationship. But I always joke that the criticisms come fairly consistently, but the thank yous, they come a lot less often. So I think it's a good policy to loop back with your legislators, thank them, let them know how this is going to affect your communities. Then they'll be happy to see you again the next time.
Let me ask you one other question, which I think is important before you get out of here is, when you talk about the budget and you talk about the priorities, et cetera, how many requests do you get? How many groups come in during session? How many people do you hear from? And because there's two misconceptions I think out there. Number one is that it's, why you heard from me, like what's the big deal? Now can you please do what I'm asking, right? But people don't realize or recognize how many so that I think it'd be great to hear from you on the number. And the second piece of it is that the money is finite. Like, it's not like you have, right. So if people are not at the table or not asking for those types of things and having champions like you, this assumption is it's over, right? Like, it's not going to necessarily mean you get the money next year.
That's right. So on this issue of budget requests, between emails and phone calls, it's hundreds and hundreds. But from, before the governor's budget introduction till budget day, I'm doing at least 4 meetings a day of people asking for something. And staff members are probably doing about 8 a day. And this is in the closed down world. So people are reaching out to us all the time. It's a hard part of the job because the people who are reaching out have very good programs and they have needs that need to be addressed. And there is never enough money to take care of all the needs. And that's where the balance comes in. And that's where it really is the value of these long-term relationships, because I can confidently advocate for an increase of STEM funding for non-public schools because I am confident that that money is going to be spent appropriately. It's going to be spent wisely, and it's going to have impact on students' lives. So we get hit all the time, but you can't do it all. But at the end of it, Maury, it's really what you support is a reflection of your values. And so I value educating every child, and I'm gonna continue to do that. But you are very right to point out that our list of requests greatly outstrip our budget every year. And that's why it's important, to do consistent, broad-based advocacy.
I love it. Thank you very much, Senator. We're going to move on to a technical aspects of this. We'll hear from Yosef. I don't want to make the senator sit there and hear our technical aspects of things, although Yosef's very entertaining, even for a seasoned veteran like Senator Ryan. Senator Ryan, we thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule for this. I know you're going to get I'm already seeing some people on our call. I know you're going to get some thank you notes also, because that's what people heard from this. So I'm sure you're going to get those as well. We're very, very grateful to you on behalf of the 400,000 non-public school kids in the state and in your district. I think people are going to be very, very happy with this budget. You look a little tired. So
a little tired
from all the hard work that you put into this, etc. So, we'll wait a couple of weeks before we bother you again. I want to end with just one thing with Senator Ryan, if we can. Now, Senator Ryan, you're such a champion of these issues and such a big proponent of them. There's actually a bill you're sponsoring also that could have a major impact on both the public schools and non-public schools. Can you end with that and just give people a little preview of that as well?
Sure. So there's we produce a lot of power in New York State through the New York Power Authority, and we give allocations of cheap power to places like the MTA, airports, but we also give school districts a very low power rate. But that is now only for public schools. So I have a bill that I'm still really working on, the technical aspects of it that would make it so the New York Power Authority had to widen that allocation of low-cost power to include non-public schools. And I consider that one, if we can get that one through, that is going to have a larger financial impact on schools than hardly anything else we do. Because anyone on this who does the bills for their schools will tell you exactly how much the electricity costs every year, and they got to pay it 12 months, and it never stops. So the low-cost power allocation, if we can get that through, I think it'll be a non-controversial item. It'll go a little bit below the radar screen, but boy, would that have an impact on your bottom line operating costs. So fingers crossed, but I'm going to need your help to get that one done.
I love it. Electric. We love it.
Electric. That's right.
We love it.
All right. Thanks a bunch. Great to see everybody.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you very much. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Senator.
You got it. Okay. Bye-bye.
Now, Yosef, can you follow an electric performance like that from Senator Ryan?
Do my best, Okay, it's a very very big day. We're very close to Pesach. Yudolf Nissan is a special day in Brooklyn, so I want to talk a little bit just about the way the two things have come together here in a very appropriate, opportune moment. The release of the year 6 STEM figures, a figure of $58 million with the actual paying out of the year 3 money, which people were waiting for quite a long time. Very, very significant, because with year 3, it's the first year we can really see the impact of these dollars. Just how high the reimbursements are coming in. Everyone's starting to get their money. I'm getting a lot of payment notifications today, so it's a perfect confluence of factors to kind of just understand the impact of this program. At $30 million, we have schools seeing money that's starting to parallel their mandated service money. In some cases, we have schools that are actually getting more in STEM than mandated services, and that's at about half the level that we are at now. So 30 million, compared to 58 million is approximately half. So the year 5 amount is 40 million. The applications are due August 1st. The applications were just released, and we've started already reviewing for schools. We very much stress the importance to get in touch with us. Even if you feel you're an expert in your STEM applications, to show us your applications. We've seen a lot of small little issues popping up, misunderstandings, things that could have been helped if we would have reviewed the applications. We're also asking schools to send us their allocation breakdowns. That's a PDF that was sent with your notification, your original notification you got last week. That breaks out each individual teacher, what they got reimbursed for, if they didn't get reimbursed, and the reasons. So we're using those to analyze any kind of issues that are popping up and troubleshoot those, and do some policy work and fixes with state ed. We're also waiting for the year 4 money that you applied for last August, and we're hoping that with new staff in SORAS that are filling some of the gaps that were there this year, and also hopefully some relief in terms of the responsibilities that SORAS had, we'll see a quicker turnaround with STEM. So again, with STEM, focus on year 5. Money is going to be monumental. It's going to, be at 40 million, which is, like a 30% increase over last year. So it's very significant money. Please do not wait till last minute, and do not overlook any possible eligible teacher, any possible detail of that program. Moving to the non-public school security equipment grant program and the new allocation of $45 million. I'm not sure people understand how monumental this is. It's basically it's almost like a new funding source because of the new allowable expenses, which include maintenance, repairs, construction-like expenses. Again, as Maury referenced, we don't have yet the guidance on it, but it's clear that the intent of the law is that school buildings that are falling in disrepair and their systems should be able to be repaired and replaced as needed. The money is extremely significant, 3 times the amount it was before. I don't believe we're going to see that for year 9. I think it's going to be for year 10, which would be starting next year. But we'll be getting in touch about that. And obviously a re-up of the hate crimes grant, which is a very important grant for schools, and now synagogues are also allowed to apply for that. And then obviously we just finished also the cap and MSR season, so cap and MSR levels are slightly increased as needed. That's basically my recap. And if anyone has any questions, we're always happy to field them here or offline, as always.
Yes, there is a question answer box at the bottom. If you have any questions, you can put it in there or in the chat, and we would be happy to answer them.
Where's it in the chat?
There isn't any yet. We'll give everybody a couple minutes if they have questions to give them to us. Oh, here we have something. Jonathan Weitzman asks, how can we see when we receive the STEM funding?
You'll get an email notification from State Education Department from the same email address that sent the notification last week. I will post the address. I'll post the email address in there. It's the automatic payment system, the portal. I'll just post it in the chat so you guys can see it. This is what you should be looking for. If you have questions if you didn't see that, you can reach out to us, and we'll be happy to try to unravel who it might be going to in your school. Oh, sorry, I didn't put it to everyone. Hang on, I'm sorry.
We have another question from Baruch Noy, who said, is there consideration for future years to include STEM materials and professional development beyond just teacher salary reimbursement?
Is there consideration? Sorry, let me just look at this. Pushing the coming weeks and the regulation. I'm sorry, can you say the question again?
So is there consideration for the future of STEM to include the reimbursement of STEM materials as well as professional development beyond just teacher salary reimbursement?
I mean, it's something we've thought about. I think our logic has been that if we take away from the teacher reimbursements, it'll sort of water that down until we get the teacher reimbursement done. I mean, STEM year 3 was a $74 million reimbursement, which means that's the range we need to get to, maybe 80, 85 million. So we're pretty close to getting fully funded. So I think those are good ideas and good suggestions to add into the pot, and something definitely I think we've talked about. It's just our intention has always been to pay the program first and then see if we can ask for those things as well. I see a question also about benefits that popped up. Basically the same thing. I think we've got to pay for salary first, and then before we start talking about benefits and things like that. These are all good objectives. I mean, look, for all of us involved in this, people should triple down or quadruple down. When we ask you to be involved in Teach NYS, it's really nonsense. What we're really asking you to do is be involved in your own civics and your own advocacy in your own government. So when you talk to legislators and say to them, this is the impact STEM funding is having, but we need the benefits paid for, or we need the equipment paid for, other things like that, it's a game changer. I mean, that's really what we're talking about. So I think all of these things are possible because in 2017, we passed reimbursable STEM funding. So I think the rest of these things now we're even asking these questions shows the art of the possible. So I think it's really just up to us about how aggressive we are in terms of that. And that then comes down to how aggressive the community is with this. So, I mean, I mean, just, case in point here, we have, how many attendees are on this right now, Dean?
We have 33 people.
We have 33 people. I mean, this is an increase of epic proportions, and we have 33 people. So we need people to spread the word this stuff's working, and we need more people taking actionable items to make improvements. Like Baruch Noy is an incredible person and involved with 100 different things on there, but we need more people out there involved in this work who want to be involved, parents and volunteers and things like that, if we want to make actions on this.
There's another question here that has to do with tuition. Said how much goes into school budget as opposed to a line item reduction in tuition for families?
I I think the answer to that is it depends on the school. I mean, we've answered this question before on other webinars, which is that there's a lot of educators on this call. I think more educators than there are lay leaders, and I think the educators are going to demonstrate the fact that in some situations tuition's gone up, and they've used this money in order to improve their STEM programs or improve the security lines. In other situations, we've seen, I think 2 or 3 schools announced that tuition wasn't going to go up as much, and we've seen schools flatten tuition as well. Do we see it as a line item in the budget? Very rarely, because the amount of money is allocated per its use within each school. So security they have to account for the security costs, they have to account for the STEM costs, they have to account for textbook costs and things like that. So it's not in direct relation to that, as you would, for example, a per pupil voucher or something else like that that's done in other states. So that's my answer in terms of that, which is not a simple answer, but that's the answer in terms of how schools, usage of this funding and how it actually ends up trickling down.
And finally, the last question we have, Sydney, I'm not sure who gave it to us, but says, has there been any talk of pushing in the coming weeks on the regulation that the state shouldn't preclude entities who got hate crime grants from eligibility?
Yeah, we're working on that also. We don't agree with that. We think that I said that in the last call that we had. We don't agree with that. We disagree with the state on that and think that that's wrong. So we are working on that and have already raised it and will continue to raise it. And I think the entire non-public school coalition is on board with that. I don't think anyone that's really a defensible position.
Anyone else have any other questions or comments for our panelists?
Great. It looks like we don't have any more questions or comments, but again, I'm just going to echo everything that has been said, as well as been said by Senator Sean Ryan, was that he was educated on what these programs are from people from within the community. And like Maury said, we can only be as successful when people of the community, not just our schools, not just the top 3 people that are involved, but when everyone is involved and educating their own elected officials. And it's not just the work of Teach NYS, but it is the work of all the communities and getting involved in your civic engagement. It's super, super important for you to spread the word, to tell your communities, to tell your friends and your families, no matter what school that they go to, that this is moving, this is working, and this is a movement to get involved in, because we cannot be as successful as we are without the movement behind us. So look out from your emails. We will be sending out an action alert to thank all of our legislators, our senators, the governor, to thank our assembly members for this record-breaking funding. It's so important that they hear from you and that you are thanking them, because this work is even though the budget has been passed, that means we're starting right again for next year. So it doesn't stop, and we're going to continue to work and push on for next year's budget. So I appreciate everyone being on here. We wish everyone a happy Pesach, good Pesach, and should you have any other questions, you know where to find us, and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.